All right, it's 6 p.m. If everyone could take their seats. Happy New Year, Canyon Lake. We welcome you on this 2nd of January. If everyone would please rise and remove your hats if you have one for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Joe Kamasian. Thank you, Joe. All right, we'll begin verification of quorum.
Director Bill,
Here.
Director Cook,
Here.
Director Kamasian, Director Doherty,
Here.
President Van Vliet,
Here.
by President Cormet.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Has anyone reviewed the minutes? Would like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So move. Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes? Say aye.
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 5 in favor, motion carried.
Any public officials who would like to speak? Director Burke, we are really happy to see you here tonight.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Happy New Year. So obviously, there's been a lot of activity in EVMWD the last few weeks. Probably top of mind is the unfortunate sewer main force break on Village Way. So first, I want to extend my wholeheartedly apologies to the Mora family. They were the ones most impacted by this. They had raw sewage in their swimming pool, on their easement on our beach. They were directly impacted. I can say that from my perspective, a couple of things that they have been able to share with us that we have made some changes. One of us that when they called our emergency line, the amount of time it took to respond was unacceptable. So I will let them know that the firm that we used to respond has been terminated. We are getting a new dispatch for after hours. Unacceptable. When you call for an emergency, you shouldn't have to listen to billing. That was one issue, but you should also have somebody answer the phone. Once someone answered the phone, our teams responded and those gentlemen worked all night. So they were able to get our vector trucks there to mediate, mitigate, repair, dig out. I believe our insurance adjuster has been out there within days. I know our general manager and director of operations met with the family, and we are doing everything we can to bring that back to where it should have been. But I really wanted to commend them for taking detailed notes of their experience, because that allowed me to go back to that vendor and say what their experience was versus what I'm always told the experience was two different things. Because first of all, it's public health is our number one priority. And let me be clear about that: public health, not wildlife health. Public health is our top priority. And this, of course, I think we've had conversations before where a sewer pipe breaks only at night and during holidays. So it can't happen at a worse time. And I knew that, I'm sure they had family coming. They may have grandchildren. I don't know that, but it just couldn't have happened at a worse time. So all of us feel horrible about the timing. Obviously, getting it repaired and cleaned up is our top priority, and getting their pool repaired or whatever we need to do. I know that that process is in works, but again, it's Christmas. So hopefully that, I know those wheels are in motion. Hopefully it'll be timely for them and they'll get what they need done. But let's talk about the spill itself. The pipe that actually broke shouldn't have broke. And I know that says, oh, well, Darcy, it did. It wasn't that old. It was only about 30 years old. And if you know pipe years go like 50 to 100 years old. So a 30-year-old pipe breaking is an anomaly. So why it broke, we're still going to have to figure that out. So, because also a few days later, we had a main water break at Happy Camp, and then another valve issue at Longhorn. Now, water pipes are different, and they are older in this area. So there is what we call a master plan to repair those pipes over time, because really is not only what are you doing to fix it, but what are you doing to prevent it, Darcy? I mean, that's really the questions people should be asking me, and really going back and looking at that master plan and going back and seeing how we can test those pipes for their integrity to make sure that they are still functional. I mean, there's a lot of things that have changed over time. And I will say the number one component that I see, that although I'm not sure that this was the culprit, is those non-flushable wipes. Oh my gosh, they're not flushable, people. Throw them away. But if you had the opportunity to ever tour one of our wastewater plants, and I know we opened them up for splash into spring, and you saw the biological process of how sewage dissipates, it's actually Mother Nature. It is other bacteria that eats the bad bacteria and it dissipates. It's the same in this reservoir. So when the fish poop and the birds poop and your neighbors poop in the summer and they urinate in there in the summer on the holidays, because they do. And people are like, oh, but this was an intense amount in a small area, which is why the beaches were closed. But dilution is the solution to bacteriological pollution. And that's just kind of how it works. When you talk about sediment in the lake, which is, I've also had a lot of people concerned about it, the particles that you're most concerned about, which would be the E. coli or the active bacteria, that's not going to be in the sediment anymore. That part's going to dissipate and go away. The good bugs are going to eat the bad bugs. There's other sediment in there that to me is more concerning, like PFAS. So removing that is a whole hazmat thing that in the long term, we will have to talk about that, but that's not an immediate issue. That's not something that impacts our ability to use the lake, to recreate on the lake, or to enjoy the lake. It would cause more damage to move that sediment, to release that into the water, and increase the concentration of that contaminant in the water than to just leave kind of a lying dog still. So that's one thing. The one thing I will say, although I don't think people really understand that social media is not the end all be all to get a conversation going. I have had some pretty good conversations about other water quality things like fluoride and radon, because if you have a water quality conversation, I'm happy to answer any of your questions. So if you're concerned, I don't blame you. I'd be concerned too. I actually, when I got up that next morning at 4 o'clock, I went down there and took coffee to the guys. It's like, okay, what happened? What are we doing? How can we make sure that those residents are as inconvenienced as little as possible now that it's actually happened? So obviously the Mora family was our top priority, making sure you could still take a shower that day. I don't think anybody had their water turned off or they weren't allowed to flush their toilets that morning, because we had trucks everywhere and we were able to use bypasses and pumps to make sure that that sewage was and wastewater was taken care of. Wastewater is also, let's talk about what's in wastewater. Most of the wastewater is made up of gray water. Gray water is when you run your sink, your dishwasher, you take a shower, you use a bath, you run your washing machine. Your toilet actually makes a very small percentage of it. It just is the part that we all think about when we think of wastewater. So I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody. I have posted my phone number everywhere. Call me. I know you're concerned. I want to address those concerns. I've also been asked who we called when this spill happened. We called everybody, including God. Cal EPA, the Regional Water Quality Control Board, EPA, just about every regulatory agency. We called the city because they actually have the discharge permit here. We called the POA. We've called everybody. So our response to the spill is public information. It's been filed. The engineer for the Regional Water Quality Control Board was out here the next morning with our team. So there's no secrets here. We're not hiding anything. We followed all protocol. There have been no fines because we followed all protocol. We mitigated it, we stopped it, we repaired it, and we replaced it. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I also want to thank President Van Vliet for notifying me about an incident where an individual or a couple was living in a motorhome in their driveway and using a bucket under that motorhome for their wastewater. It was like Cousin Eddie on Christmas. You just can't make this up. And when that bucket would spill, that street, the slant of where it goes would go directly into the lake. That's not the first time. So I'm really happy to report that we were able to work with the POA and the city and got that situation remedied before the rains came. So that's only because we're all working together. And that was really important. So thank you very much. That was very helpful, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Darcy. Directors?
I have a comment, Darcy. As you know, I work in the water industry, designing the equipment, designing the treatment methods. I just want to thank you for what you did. You guys moved fast. Yes, you had an issue with the dispatch on that. You did contact all the regulatory agencies as required by law. And you're 100% correct on the wipes. I can't tell you, when I lived in Atlanta, we were replacing pipes left and right from that. And you're going to see the same thing here. So I really appreciate you coming forward, going through all this. And I would really hope that anybody has any questions, reach out to Darcy. I can answer some questions. I don't work for the water district. I do design the systems that they use, but Darcy is your go-to on this. And they have, as she said, the sediment, biologicals, all that stuff breaks down. The issue really is the radon, the PFAS, all those sorts of things. We don't want to disturb the bed underneath there, the sedimentation. That's when we start having issues. But thank you again, Darcy. I really appreciate that you've cleared the air on this.
Thank you.
And Darcy, I also want to thank you for your responsiveness. I know I got a frantic call from the Mora family the night that it happened, and I would be in the same situation as they were when this sewage is flowing over your wall into your backyard and so forth. It was a very difficult situation, but I appreciate the responsiveness from you of the water district in general, and your willingness to take a call really at any hour. So thank you for that. Is there anything anything additional that the POA can do about this or the main line breaks that we had at Happy Camp or Longhorn?
No, and once we have selected the new dispatch firm, I think we'll make sure that, it shouldn't take you calling me, Bill, to get a response. It shouldn't take Donna Ritchie texting me like, Darcy, we have a problem. And so that's my biggest frustration right now. We have a process in place and our residents shouldn't have to wait. So how we fix that, and we have a couple of options that we're working with right now. And that's what I'm really working towards is we have to get somebody that answers the phone. I was on hold for 11 minutes for the Longhorn one, and all I heard was the Titanic song, not the song I should have been hearing anyway. It was just ridiculous, and I have everybody's home number and, it was Saturday and nobody was answering. So I can only imagine if it was sewage in my backyard, how I would feel. So I really took to heart their comments. I was very appreciative of the timestamps that they were able to calmly record. I don't know whom of us would be able to do that, but they did. And that allowed me to go in and we were able to make some changes. So again, if you have a problem and you're not getting response, my cell phone number is literally everywhere. Call me or text me. I think, Bill, you texted me during my uncle's funeral and I was still able to get somebody out there at Treasure Island. So I do answer.
You do, and we appreciate that. Can we clarify some questions maybe from the community? One of the questions, is the lake closed?
The lake is not closed.
We're able to certainly use boating traffic and so forth. And
Correct.
and
I believe that the Moores Beach is the last place that they were doing additional sampling. So they may be the only ones inconvenienced at this time. But I talked to my director of engineering today and that sampling should have been back today or tomorrow. So that would be the last place.
I know they've been sampling on a daily basis as well. So again, appreciate your information, your responsiveness and willingness to work on this. I know it's been a big concern to many members of our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public officials who'd like to make a comment tonight? No? Okay. Well, we'd like to invite our community patrol to come up and give us an update, please. Zach?
Happy New Year. So for the month of November, we had 6 calls for service in regards to speeding. We issued 2 citations in regards to speeding, 37 calls in regards to parking, 262 citations were issued. 31 calls for unauthorized entries from the gate, 8 citations ended up coming out of those. We had 4 service calls for golf carts, 7 citations were issued on the month of November. 8 calls for e-bikes, which we were able to issue 1 citation. We had 3 calls for vandalism, 17 calls for property damage, which we were able to identify everybody for. 17 noise complaint calls, 2 citations out of that. Total call for service of 215 calls. We were unable to locate 73 of those calls. 119 guest citations were issued. And then there were 3 for service providers, 123 for members, and 208 of those were warning citations. We confiscated at the gates 115 passes, and in the month of November, we spent 72 minutes in trying to assist in entering traffic through the gates. 59 of those minutes were spent at Main Gate, 13 of those minutes were spent over there at East Gate.
Thanks. Directors, any comments, questions?
Zach, could you go back to the vandalism and property damage? Do you have any specifics on that? Were we able to locate the people that did it? How did you, well, just give me the follow-up on.
In regards to the property damage, that mainly includes like gate arm strikes. We were able to identify everybody involved with the property damage. When it comes to vandalism, we're still actively investigating those ones. We're trying still to try to find out who did those. But we are at this time, we're unable to find somebody.
Thank you.
I have one question, Zach. I know sometimes as a board member, we get calls. And chief among those calls is our concerns is e-bikes. And I know you said we had 8 things. Some of you may have seen kids as we were riding in, still have that. And we have our registration process about to kick off overall. Can you give us a little more insight? Because you said you're able to catch one of them about maybe enlighten the community on the challenge and the problem we have out there with e-bikes.
We're running into several issues right now when it comes to e-bikes. Primarily when they see us, they know they don't have to stop. If they don't stop, they don't have to talk. They just keep going. A lot of times they'll have friends with them that'll go ahead and tell you, hey, go this way because the vehicles are coming this way. They have people looking out for them. They'll go down behind the lodge and then go ahead and shoot back out down Canyon Club. It just makes it very difficult for the patrol officers because they go above speeds that are posted on the roads, and it's unsafe for us to go ahead and even follow at that time. So we have to try to go ahead and keep a distance. We're trying to go ahead and locate where they go, and then they just go ahead and disappear that way. So it's very difficult. Sheriff departments have a hard time getting out here to help us out fast enough. It's just a hard time for the patrol officers.
And so while it's difficult because of all the things that you mentioned, we are enforcing the rules.
Absolutely.
In doing that. So that's a step in the right direction. The registration will be the next part that's coming off in the next few weeks. And Lynn will tell us more about that a little bit later today. So with that, thank you, Zach. Appreciate it. All right, next, one of the things we instituted last month was a Member of the Month award, and our Vice President Doherty is going to make the award this month for a very special member.
So I'm going to welcome the candidate tonight, Ron Wilbur, and his lovely wife Faye sitting right there in the corner, and say a few words about Ron's success this year. Ron served in the Army for 4 years, so he's a veteran. Then he found his calling in sales and advertising. He started his own company and eventually had 70 employees. And he had some small accounts you might have heard of, Hewlett Packard, Sony, Microsoft. He was very successful. He shifted his focus after that and, believe it or not, joined a mega church as a staff pastor, eventually in charge of the well-being and health of 20,000 members. He retired from the church after 10 years, but continued to serve as a global director, developing worldwide regions, and leaders for healthy church growth. Now retired from the church, Ron serves large public companies on a part-time basis through his former company. In 2020, at the start of the pandemic, Ron was Vice Commodore of the Yacht Club. And it's a time most of us would like to forget, of course, but even in that crazy year, as Vice Commodore, Ron introduced 50% more Yacht Club events and grew the membership by over 50% in that 1 year. In the start of 2023, Ron became the Commodore of the Canyon Lake Yacht Club. He led an effort to make the club a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. During this year, he produced 44 yacht club events, some just by himself. 7 of which are now signature events that you'll all recognize. The opening day blessing of the boats, the Commodore's Ball held for the first time this year, and the Parade of Lights. He created clinics to teach people in the community how to drive a boat. Believe it or not, there are some people that don't. Very valuable clinic. How to decorate your boat for the Parade of Lights, which is a great success this year, and partnered with other clubs on certain events. He also spearheaded the Maui Wildfire Relief Fund, the Canyon Lake effort on that, and he was leader of raising thousands of dollars for those poor folks in Lahaina. Finally, he signed the yacht club up with a reciprocal program with the national national and regional yacht club associations, and now we as yacht club members have access to 800 clubs around the country on a reciprocal basis. Ron set a goal to make the yacht club one of the most respectable and desirable clubs in Canyon Lake, and he did. I was privileged to serve as the yacht club purser this year under Ron, and I'm now very pleased to present Ron with this award for Canyon Lake Member of the Month. So I told you that Ron was in sales, and he just can't pass up this opportunity to say a few words.
Yeah, I did bring a few membership applications with me tonight. I'd be glad to accept your application for membership in what I think is the leading yacht club in the country, but with 400 members now. So, but I wanted to say, I'm accepting this honor, not on my behalf, but on behalf of our board, which were absolutely terrific people. Rob Mora, my vice commodore, is sitting right over there. He's going to be commodore this year. He actually put on the learn how to drive a boat. He put on the other clinic, decorating boats for the Parade of Lights. He's an invaluable member of the board, but the other members of the board are terrific too. So I will accept this on their behalf. Thank you very much.
I'd like to pile on a little bit on that. So this, we happen to have a home on the East Bay, and so we have a great view of the Parade of Lights. And I gotta tell you, this year's Parade of Lights was one of the best in memory. I think largely because of the organization that you had, what you did this year with with the boats on the East Bay, and then you gathered over at Holiday Harbor. You kind of regrouped on that, allowed some boats to go out and re-enter at Holiday Harbor and do the main lake. I remember last year hearing from a number of people saying, geez, you know, it's too bad that us people on the main lake don't get to see the parade of lights because there are very few boats who made it through. And you guys did a great job of including the whole community. And I commend you all for that. It was very well received. So many people came down to the activity at Holiday Harbor to see the boats and really want to commend the yacht club in general for just an outstanding event. And we had a few hiccups because it's the first time we had it there, but we have had a meeting that we're working to continue to improve it together with the POA and the club for the future. So thank you again all. We have no announcements? No announcements? No announcements?
Sorry, no announcements. I thought you were asking for member
We
comments.
have member comments, I believe. How many do we have?
Yes, we have 5.
5. All right.
Yes. Our
Who
first
was the
is
lucky first?
Selena Schaefer.
All right, Selena, come on down and press the red button when you get up front, please.
All right, so my name is Selena Schaefer. I'm sorry, I don't remember my tract and lot number right now, but it is written down. I am just talking about the e-bikes today. I know that there's registration happening. I'm curious about like signage in parks. I live right off of Evans Park. And a lot of children have been in there like riding their bikes around. We let them know that it's against the rules for them to be on there. I think every single kid that rides in there knows that it's against the rules, but again, like the security gentleman spoke about, they just run. They see POA and they go the opposite direction. So one of the things we are requesting or hoping to have is signage saying that no vehicles are allowed on the park at all, because we've also had people racing their golf carts inside the park. And along the vandalism side, I witnessed 2 children using an axe and shovel and digging a hole in the park, and they took the dirt over to the track so they could build a ramp. And the POA, the patrol did show up. They took photographs and took the tools with them. When the children returned, I let them know that they were taken and, you know, they could reach out to the POA if they want them back. But so those are just things that I'm concerned about. They're just tearing up all the greens, disturbing people walking their dogs in the park, all kinds of things like that. So is that going to be something that is going to happen? Signs at least, or?
We appreciate you raising the concern, and we'll certainly take a look at that, and evaluate that with one of our committees. So thank you for the input. Really appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Art Femister.
How'd you move down to 2 minutes? Yeah. Well, first I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. And I want to thank the POA board and staff for making the holidays festive as they always are. You always do a great job, and especially operations. They clean up afterwards like nothing ever happened. It's just amazing to me. So thank you. Thank you for all the hard work. So on that happy note, now that the new year is here, so is our new crime wave. So we have an individual whose name I'm not going to say. I don't want to get sued. Every time he gets out of jail, cars start getting stolen again on that. So he got out in December on it. He's already been arrested for twice for stealing cars from inside here. Doesn't say he's the one that's doing it, but World Way Court, we had the Jeep stolen and 5 cars broken into it. And then last night on, well, we'll say on Rimrock, there was a posting here from a gentleman that at 3:34 in the morning, he had 2 people in his driveway out there, and you can see the car behind it that was there trying to break into his car. And as he indicated or suggested, we'll say, I'll just leave it at that, he was heading out to go find them and may have not been armed on that. And we don't want that, but I understand his frustration on it. So I think that would help, what would help the cops to help us, to help everybody else on that. The camera network we have for the homes is great. That's on it. But having cameras in the street where we can actually capture them. In this case here, he has his home camera facing out, but the car sideways, you can't see the license plate. So if we had on the POA owned properties inside the community, cameras basically on the street with 180-degree view, high resolution, night vision inside there. So when that car leaves, when a car steals something or people see that, they can go back inside and look at those cameras and see it coming at them or from behind him and catch that license plate if they have it on. Some thieves take it off, but then they attract attention. Some leave it on, but we may get lucky and capture their picture also. So I'm going to email this to you tonight. I put together here just a brief thing, the Video Camera Action Network zone map inside here. So everywhere you see a red X inside here is a POA owned property like Sierra Park, the Causeway, the Equestrian Center, what have you, a place where there's electricity and we own the property. If there's electricity and we own the property, we can put a pole, we can stick a camera there, and that information then can be sent back. And it has direct access to Riverside Sheriff's at their station, their little station house. They can come inside there and go, oh, this happened at 3:34. Let's look at the cameras on Canyon Lake Drive and see what we see. Because you can see a glimpse of the car. You kind of know what the car was inside there. So I know it's not an easy task, but Eric's getting really good at putting up cameras. I know that. You got this thing down. You could probably knock this out in a week. But anyhow, so I'll send that to you. But I know that the Sheriff's Department wants to do a good job. And it would help the deputies, even just capturing a good description on that vehicle. They're out there. That's all they do is look for stuff on it. So thank you for the time. Again, Happy New Year to everybody and appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you for the input, Art.
Our next, forgot the name, the track and lot is 3778-140 regarding sewage.
But press the red button, please.
This would be my first time here, so I don't know these things. Okay,
Well, that's how you get on the board.
3778-140. I'm Susan Fitzgerald, and I have a couple questions regarding Darcy's comments, and I really appreciate the information she gave, which did answer some of my questions, but I have a couple more. I have a concern about the liability of who is going to be liability, who has the liability if, in fact, the E. coli is sediment in the sand. Like, from what I understand, the sand has not been cleaned on the beaches that were affected, nor is it going to be. And my concern is when people start using the beaches and maybe the E. coli sinks down in there, or I don't know about how biohazards and all that get dispersed with pollution, solution, dilution. When it comes to sand, when we have no flowing water, I do have some questions about that. My question to you would be, who is going to be, if in fact we do cause some type of health hazard to our residents or guests come summertime when everything's swirling around, who's responsible for that? That is a concern of mine. I might also is concerned is, are we going to clean the sand? I understand that the water district owns the water, but we own the sand, and the sand is polluted as far as I am concerned. I don't know. I am not an ecologist. I do not know how, in fact, if water is E. coli infected and it soaks into the sand, how's that going to get cleaned? Those are my questions.
Thank you, Susan. I don't know that we have the answers to that, but I know Director Burke has an answer, and she'd probably be happy to answer those questions.
Andrew Cotter. Andrew Cotter. Kristen Kraus.
Hello, Kristen Kraus, 3868-297. First of all, this e-bike stuff in the Canyon Lake magazine, this is awesome. So thank you for doing that and all the rules. I took my e-bike test. I got 97.3%. I don't know which one I missed. So just some feedback for the test. If you could tell us which one we missed, that would be great. And I was very excited to read through the classes about the low speed throttle assisted 20 miles per hour. And I was like, yay, I can finally ride my Finn to the golf course and play a round of golf and not have to put it on the little trailer on the back of my golf cart to take it there to play golf. And then I read a little bit farther and I saw the pedals. So if I go and get my sticker on January 6th or 7th or whatever, am I going to be legal or am I going to get dinged because I don't have pedals? Because it meets all the other regulations. Everything else is good. I'm over 18, way over.
Well, Kristen, I sympathize with you and your plight. We've tried to get some progress in that regard. It has failed. And I can tell you, my research that I've done on the manufacturer, your bike shows 1,000-watt motor, which is in excess of the limited 750 watt. And the fact that there's no pedals would definitely not let it be allowed in Canyon Lake. So based on what we know at this point, that's what I have to, the information I can give you.
It does have a 1,000-watt motor, true, but it is governed to 15 miles per hour. So effectively, it's way below the 750. So it's just another consideration. I mean, I do feel like they got these little monsters riding around on the bikes all over destroying things. You have a 58-year-old woman who wants to play golf. And I've lived here for 20 years. So everything says it's better for the turf. It's better for the speed of play. It's accessible. It costs less than replacing the batteries in my golf cart, which are frankly dying. My motor is dying in the golf cart from having to trailer these thin golf cycles to the course. So please revisit. I've been doing this for 2 years. I rode for 2 years. Now I've been trying to convince some common sense for 2 more years. So you've done lots of great work on, could we please do the same for golf carts?
Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate your concerns.
No other comments?
No other comments? Okay. With that, we'll move into the consent agenda. Anyone wish to change anything on the consent agenda? No? Is there a motion to accept, to approve the consent agenda as written? We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
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 5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, on the board action items, 8.1, 8.2. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, due to a duplication, I'd like to remove 8.1 and 8.2. Those were both handled last month. But propose a motion to remove 8.1 and 8.2.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Any board member, any members in the community wish to make a comment on that discussion? Board members discuss? It's purely because its duplicate was handled last month. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we're pulling 8.1 and 8.2.
5 in favor, motion carried.
All right, moving on. Item 8.3, committee member removal for the Estates Committee. Lynn.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Happy New Year to everyone. Currently, the Estates Committee has 5 members appointed to this committee. When 1 or more members are absent from a meeting, it can cause the committee to not meet quorum, which in this particular case has been multiple meetings over the past year that they were not able to meet this quorum, which then causes them not be able to do business. We've had a couple members that have been absent regularly. One in particular is this member. So the committee's made a recommendation to the board to remove this member for non-attendance to allow them to open up the vacancy and look for a member that can attend more regularly. So it's recommended that the board of directors remove Francis Stuman from the estate committee to allow for a new member appointment.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay. Any member comments or on the subject? No one in the audience? Directors, any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the removal of the committee's estates member, say aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
All right, thanks. 28-day reading on accessory structures. Happy New Year, Cheryl.
Right, we have two for tonight, and the first one is a 28-day reading for a revised rule for PC 5.7 accessory structure. The ACC and staff felt it necessary to update PC 5.7 accessory structures to include a special condition. We also want to notate that Tract 3961 is exempt from this rule due to their CC&Rs. The changes due to the condition of approval work will include that the Tract 3961 would be exempt, and that the thatching, if used, to be sprayed with fire retardant. And number 3, structures must be attached to the cement in case of high winds. And number 4, storage containers are considered portable and do not need to meet PC 5.3 for matching roof materials and PC 5.7 for matching roof colors. They may have plastic floors. So it is recommended that the board of directors approve the 28-day reading for PC 5.7 accessory structure as attached.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any member comments? No member comments? Directors, any questions or discussion? I guess I have a question. Does this include if I want to put a pod or a, let's say one of those metal storage containers on my yard for all my things? Can I put that? Does that qualify as this accessory structure? Is that allowed?
No, that does not qualify as an accessory structure.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. All in favor of approving the 28-day reading, say aye.
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 5 in favor, motion carried.
Well, speaking of pods,
As you wish, for the we are reading for another 28 revised rule for PC 4.21 household storage and storage modules. Due to the community complaints regarding pods on streets for a certain number of days, the committee and staff felt it necessary to revise PC 4.21. The rule needed updating for what the committee is approving for dumpsters and pods. Modules and pods are currently being used as storage for homes that experiences such as leaks and remodeling of interiors of the property, housing furniture, and other personal items. If the pod or dumpster is parked on the street, they shall be placed parallel and adjacent to the curb, have reflectors so as to be visible from the street at night, and not to block the driveway, and to be removed within 14 days from the approval. The module, after being filled, is required to be removed from the street, and when the modulars are returned, another permit would then be required. The current changes to the rule in red is property versus street requiring a permit and the time allowed to remain. Dumpster and pod modules in the street or on the driveway will require an application for approval. Prior to this rule revision, it was only the ones on the street that required approval. That is being done for the department to be able to monitor and send notifications for dumpsters and pods to be removed as necessary. There is a fine that's attached to it because it's an application required. It's no different than any of our other ones. It's for $250 per month. There's no change to that. And so his recommendation is that the Board of Directors approve a 28-day reading for PC 4.21 as attached.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any member discussion? If you would like to speak, just raise your hand. You can come forward at this point. Travis, please come forward.
Travis Montgomery, 3863-010. I spoke to a couple of directors about this before the meeting, and then I looked at it a little further. One of the things in the report says that the modules must be removed within 14 days from approval. Not that they can be there for 14 days, but that it's from approval is what it says. Now I come in and I'm certainly not going to go out and rent my module and have it delivered without having approval. And when I get approval and it takes 3 or 4 days for it to get there, I have 14 days from approval. So I only have 8 or 10 days perhaps that it can be there. So I think that language needs to be cleaned up and made a little bit more specific. I also think that 14 days, I don't know how many of you have done remodeling, but if you put a module on your driveway so that you can remodel your kitchen, 14 days is not going to get even close to meeting the time. So I question, you know, I understand the intent, but the enforcement's going to, let's not create an enforcement problem with that. So I think the timing's a little short, and I think with that 14 days from approval could end up being, you can only have it for 3 or 4 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Any other members wish to comment? Board discussion.
Well, my thoughts are, if I went and got an application and I knew that it wasn't going to be delivered till the 10th of August, I would file the application on the date of 10th of August. I'm assuming that would be something that planning and compliance could work out. So with a little bit of scheduling, I think that problem could be avoided. And the idea of 14 days is not to allow people to store their stuff in their front yard or their driveway for the duration of the project, just enough to load the pod and get it out of there. So the neighbors in the surrounding community didn't have to look at those storage pods for weeks and months at a time. But that's the purpose of this rule, correct?
That is correct. And these permits are over the counter, which means same day. So if you were to come in and you had something that's going to be delivered in 2 days, we would offer you that time to come in and 2 days to get that permit. Or you can, by the time the letter gets to you, it's an additional 3 or 4 days anyway.
Any other questions or comments? Jeff?
I have a question. Could you just detail the application process, where they go, what are they going to have to do, all that, just so that everybody knows?
So what they do is they come to our department, planning compliance, and they ask for a permit for a pod and or a storage modular. The first question that we're going to ask is, where do you want it to be located? On the street or on the driveway? We encourage everybody to put it on the driveway because there are certain streets out there that have visibility issues, even with reflectors at nighttime. When you have people walking the streets, people who want to ride their bikes or even, take a walk or stroll with their children cannot always be seen around these. So we encourage the members to put it on the driveway, but where they cannot, because there are driveways that are not conducive, they either incline or decline. And so they're allowed to be able to have that 14-day time frame. It then, after they issue that permit, it still goes to the committee for the actual approval. Even though we give them the permit over the counter, the committee basically has to make sure, is there any issues? So if there is, they can pull that permit and then we can send another letter. So they do have a letter that's sent, but it's usually within 5 to 7 days after the permit's been issued. Yes, that is correct. They don't have to wait at all. They get it that same day.
Jeff or Jake, Greg, do you have a comment?
To Cheryl's point about the desk permit for these things, I've had an occasion to go in and get one of those. It takes like 3 minutes. It's really kind of a no-brainer. And as someone pointed out, if you know your module's coming on a certain day, you can go down there the day before and get that permit at the drop of a hat, to use a phrase. I do think that we want to give folks a disincentive to keep these things in their driveway or on the street, as the case may be, for a long period of time. If you're going to remodel a substantial portion of your house, you're probably going to have a lot of furniture and stuff that goes in there and needs to be stored for a lengthy period of time, whether it's, a month or 2 months or 5 months. And people, I don't think, want to look at those things. So if it goes more than 14 days, then it's got to be removed. And then you apparently need a permit to bring it back, and the appropriate time to bring it back would be, in my example, when the work is done. So that's my feeling about that.
Thank you, Greg. I have a couple of comments on this or questions. I just want to reemphasize, this permit is required whether you put it on the street or in your driveway, correct? And it's the same rules and so forth. And so I believe I understand the need for this. A number of residents and members have raised concerns to me about the safety in particular of many of these, particularly on busy streets. They can be a safety hazard. So I understand that. And I also understand but I believe I've actually used one. When we moved here, we used a pod. We put it in our house. Well, I loved it because it was actually far cheaper for me to move using a pod because I was able to put it in our house in Orange County. We loaded it up over the course of a couple of weeks, put all the stuff in, they picked it up, they dropped it here. And then over the course of a couple more weeks, I was able to unload it off my driveway, and then it went its own merry way. So I think that was good. If you're going to remodel your house, the nice thing about these temporary pods and so forth is, at least their business model, as I understand it, is if you have to do something where you're remodeling, as Greg said, you can put it all in and they can take it up and store it at one of their yards until you're ready to bring it back, and then come back and then do it. And so I think that the only question that I guess I'm wrestling with is one that Travis raised, which is 14 days enough time? I guess if you're moving, I guess I've done it, so I guess it's possible. It just means you got to hustle your buns and maybe fill up your garage while you're doing it, or be very organized about it. But it sends the right message, which is, look, it's temporary and not permanent. So I'm personally struggling with the timing aspect of it, but I certainly understand and agree the intent of the ruling here.
If I may just state that if there is a question and more people are concerned about that time, under extreme circumstances, we have to understand that if it takes 7 days, you're actually getting 21 days for that unit. But if there is extreme circumstances, they can always request an extension, just like any permit that we issue. Doesn't necessarily mean the committee will grant, but it does mean that they can get.
Cheryl, one more thing. I don't know what it would cost for a storage pod to be taken away for a month and stored versus the $250 fine. And I don't know if the committee's looked at that and said that some people might just say, I'll pay the $250 fine and I'll leave it in my driveway. So
We can raise it to 5.
And I'm open to that if that's a concern of the board and a concern of the committees.
Well, understand this is $250 per month. This is not just a one-time fine. And it goes in line with all of our other permitting items, whether there's an application required or for an expired permit. That's the same cost. If we want to do a different cost, then that's something the board could suggest.
Okay, I mean, I can just see someone giving serious thought to just leave it there, pay the $250 fine, and then we'll unload it when we finish the kitchen or whatever the issue is.
So if committee's fine with that $250, I'll go with that, but I just wanted to raise the question.
That's a great question, and I just Googled it. So if you went through pods, unfortunately, the Wi-Fi is pretty set. Well, it's a 28-day reading, and we have enough time to research that. That's not done in the middle of a board meeting, but okay. Any other discussion items, comments, questions? All in favor of this 28-day reading, say aye.
Aye.
Five in favor, motion carried.
Thank you, Cheryl. Special event area access, Lynn.
Okay, I'll present this one for Mary back there. All right, so this was for approval. We brought this as a 28-day reading last month. With the increased popularity of members using bicycles, e-bikes, scooters, and skateboards as transportation throughout the community, there's been significant increase in use of the personal devices brought into many of the special events held within the community. With the increased number of these personal devices, it has had an impact on pedestrian vehicle golf cart traffic at the special event locations. With this increased personal device traffic, event access for pedestrians and participants in the event has become more congested. Currently, there is not a rule addressing the use of bicycles, scooters, skateboards, e-bikes, etc. in these event areas for being parked or left on the common area during these special events. To alleviate this congestion and potential for pedestrian or participants to not be allowed ease of path through the parking lots, roads, and event areas, staff has recommended the following rule revision.
Is there a motion? I'll make the motion. Anyone want to second it?
Second.
Any member discussion or comments or questions? No? Directors, discussion? This is following, 28-day reading was last month. This is following up. And, go ahead,
Yeah, I
Joe.
just stressed it last month. I want to stress it again. This includes parades like Fiesta Day, the golf cart parade, or any other parade, not just an event held at here or Holiday Harbor. This includes all events that that we put on or clubs put on.
Correct.
All in favor of approving this new rule, say aye.
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 Five in favor, motion carried.
Approving the golf course rules, GR 2.1 to 13.2 and CC 2.8. Mary, come on up.
This is for approval on rule GC 2.1 through GR 13.2 and CC 2.8. The Rules Committee was tasked with a review of recommending updates to the golf rules. The Rules Committee met with John Keegwin from the Green Committee on October 17th, 2023 to discuss rule revisions for the golf rules. The committee is recommending the Green Committee's revisions as attached.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any members? Renee, please come forward.
Hello, happy new year. Renee Griffiths, track and lot 3778154. Apologies for not being here for a while, but there's been a lot of family stuff. So I missed December as well, but I did see this. And I wanted just to address this specifically. And it would be the one about annual members. So GC 9.1, which is on page 94. Allowing POA resident members the ability to make a tee time ahead of non-resident golf club members was approved by the board November of 2022. The goal was to elevate the POA resident members above non-residents. Accordingly, resident members with an annual golf membership were allowed to make tee time reservations 14 days in advance. The 7-day advance tee time for the non-resident members did not change. There are some that might argue that non-resident golf club members should be treated the same as residents. So I ask you to consider what's in the 2023-2024 fiscal budget. Non-resident annual golf memberships provide an income of $167,000. POA resident members subsidize a golf course in the amount of $809,889. Non-annual membership golf green fees, which is for prime, twilight, and super twilight, total $760,000 of anticipated additional revenue. 2 additional points. We have a younger working demographic that enjoys golfing on the weekends and holidays, allowing them to make a tee time ahead of a non-resident member is more than appropriate. Also, number 2, when I called the pro shop today to inquire about obtaining an outside membership, I was told the wait list is roughly 100 deep. Therefore, if anyone argues that non-resident members might leave, we have a long list of people who are gladly waiting to take their place and will appreciate the 7-day advanced tee time. So I asked you to consider leaving that how it was approved back in November 2022, keeping members of the POA ahead of non-residents in the golf club. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Any other members have a comment? All right, board discussion.
Yeah, I would like to comment. Just to give you a little background of how this transpired, so forth. Back in August 2023, I sat on the Green Committee and tasked the Green Committee to go through all their rules. And we've been trying over the last year, trying to reduce a number of pages we have in rules. So the POA has 172 pages of rules. And there's virtually nobody that moves in this community and goes, oh, I'm going to sit down and read all 172 pages. So we started talking about how are we going to reduce that with goals to let's get it to a smaller document. And so I asked Green Committee to go back and look at all the rules, look for duplication. If you notice, every park has no loud music, no bikes, these rules are redundant in every single location. And so Green Committee was tasked to do this. This is the rules that the Green Committee, along with the Golf Pro, along with everybody that's on that Green Committee, came back and said, this is what we think all the rules should be doing to reduce and clarify where they wanted to go. Then it went to the Rules Committee, where John Kigwin presented it to the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee accepted the Green Committee's recommendation. So that's where all this came about. Yes, there was a year ago, we talked about reservations and times and dates. But this is really what the Green Committee and the Golf Pro felt. This is where they wanted those rules. So nobody on this board is like trying to change rules just to change rules. It really came from committee input.
I'll add a comment too. I actually didn't realize that we were changing this rule until it came to our attention today. And I did go back through my notes and realized in November of 2022 that we did say it was 14, 10, and 7. So I didn't believe that was when the 20-day reading came up, I missed that and didn't realize that this was actually changing that back. And so, Joe, I know you've been the liaison to the Green Committee. Can you maybe give more insight as to why they're recommending that change in the non-resident annual members? Do you know why the Green Committee recommended this change on GC 9.1?
I don't think that there was agreement with the Green Committee regarding the board's, I think she said November 22 decision. And so it was an opportunity to make a recommendation from the Green Committee directly to the board to rectify that and justify the fact that while we have about 50 outside members, non-resident members, they pay $150,000 annually, roughly $3,000, and there are waiting list members or people on the waiting list to join, and it's not their fault they're not signed up and paying. It's an issue with golf carts. So I think it's a fair opportunity. It doesn't put them ahead of our resident members, our residents. It puts them at an equal level of 10-day advance notice, which I think is more than fair.
They're just, yeah, please come forward.
My comment to that, again, I'm focused and I've always focused on what's best for the members and putting members first. And while they do contribute 150,000, the members collectively are subsidizing a little bit over 800,000. So that should be taken into consideration. If we want to look at it that everyone should be even, then have everyone even, which means that our annual golf club members who live here, who get the 14-day advance tee time, go to 10 as well. Now, personally, do I want that to happen to our annual golf members? By the way, I am not one and I play about twice a year. No, because I want them to be rewarded, just like I feel like the people who live here should be rewarded as well and go ahead of non-residents. The other reason why the wait list is so long, and I'm not worried about necessarily people leaving, is our nearest competitor, Rancho California Oaks or whatever it's called, they don't allow annual members at all anymore. They got rid of that. So that's why we're seeing a bigger influx. So I just wanted to address that.
Thank you. Wait, one more comment in the back, please.
As a former annual golf member, because I wasn't going to renew it until I could ride my cycle. I do agree, because, we pay a lot of money and that thing is there. But as I was reading through this, another one, and please tell me if this is out of order, is 312. All golf carts, there's a typo, golf carts. All golf carts must be registered with the POA. So with these new rules, only authorized golf carts and persons allowed, does that mean that I can't play golf with my fin anymore too? Because y'all wouldn't give me a golf cart sticker. And now it's not an e-bike. So it's a bit of a quandary. Because it's definitely, I have been playing golf for 4 years on my fin. So help me out, Joe.
I have to say, I didn't quite understand the question. So give it to me.
Yeah, you wouldn't give, I'm not allowed to get a golf cart sticker. 'Cause
Well,
that's the very first thing I
okay.
tried. And now I'm not allowed an e-bike.
Well, I think you're aware that your device
My device.
gets special consideration. Okay, that without getting into it too much, because I don't want you to ruin that benefit you have. That it goes to say that you will not be affected by that. I can't absolutely say into the future, but I can tell you that there's no consideration in this rule or any of the rules to exclude your current situation.
Awesome.
I hope I said that clearly without.
You do. It just says you need a golf cart sticker and I don't have one. Okay. I'm gonna
Okay.
leave it alone. You said yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other members' discussion? Board members?
I just have a quick question. With these dates being changed as far as opening up to the public, do we see an increase or decrease in the golfers coming in from outside of the area? Because my question is, yeah, we subsidize this a lot. Would we have to subsidize it as much if we had people coming from outside? And if we have the capacity to handle that? So we would subsidize it less.
Well, and again, I'm speaking without authority here, but I'll tell you my beliefs. That is, what is the limiting factor on non-resident annual members or anyone who's a non-resident, even residents come, is the number of golf carts we have available. And we only have so many available. And that's what limits and that's why we have up to 50, I believe, non-resident annual members available. If we had more carts, we could have more, and that would help decrease the subsidy. But we're cart limited and storage limited is what it comes down to.
Yeah, just a moment. I think it's pretty clear. I heard that there's 100. I didn't know there was 100 on the waiting list, but if there's 100 on the waiting list and we had the carts to supply them, then that would be $300,000 added revenue, reduce our subsidy from 800 and some thousand to about $500,000. So it'd be a significant impact if we were able to do that. We're not. So but it does show the importance of the outside membership. So I wanted to thank you. Somebody have a comment?
Okay.
But the fins could increase the car capacity significantly and lower turf impact.
We understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Horse is officially dead. Yes, thank you. Travis, please.
Travis Montgomery, 3863. Regarding the 14-10 days, I think that's a valid rule, the way you're proposing it. It says to our people who live in here and pay and help subsidize the golf course that just because somebody comes from the outside, they don't get privileges ahead of me. And when I know there were conversations about this, that outside annuals wouldn't get any kind of an advantage over somebody who lives here, who pays 20-some dollars a month, if you look at our dues structure, to help subsidize the golf course. That's about the only restriction there is on an outside member. They're presidents of our clubs, everything else. So, the only thing they can't do is 4 days different. And that's about the only benefit an annual member gets, is he gets 4 more days of that he can make reservations compared to anybody else. So I think thought was put into this, and I think it's in support of our people who aren't annual members, but they're residents, and they do help support the golf course through their dues.
Thank you, Travis. So I'm gonna give you an opinion. Here's where I'm struggling. This is the only, and I agree with everything that else that's in this thing, but I'm struggling with this point because the last board that did vote on this voted specifically on this, and it was 14, 10, and 7. And I don't believe it was the intent of either going through the Green Committee or the Rules Committee to change that. And it certainly wasn't our intent when we did the at least in my opinion, when we did the 28-day reading to change that. And so I would be more in favor of leaving that as was last voted upon. And if we wish to change it, to have a separate vote on that. That's my opinion. Comments, thoughts? I still think we should leave section 9.2 as voted upon most recently at 14, 10, and 7, rather than leave it here. I think that was the last board vote. I know there's other things, but it hasn't come forward to the board to specifically change that. And I don't think it's right for us to try and do it under this comprehensive change, in my opinion. I'm open to rebuttal.
Well, I don't see where 7 days putting a annual member, outside non-resident annual member, 3 days behind a resident. I think that kind of detracts from the effects of attracting outside members to participate. And I think that putting them equal with resident members doesn't harm resident members and gives the outside annuals an opportunity to participate on an equal playing field. So I don't see any point in punishing outside annuals when they commit a 12-month contract for over $3,000 to our community. I think putting them on an equal playing field when it comes to making tee time reservations, it's a reasonable request, and their participation in the community, in the golf community, is by far greater than the participation of the weekend golfer, if you will, who plays a couple times a month and doesn't participate in the club structure or development of the community.
I hear and respect your opinion, Joe,
Mhm.
as always. Hit your spike there. What I'm, again, my concern is the last time this came forward on this specific item for a board, it was voted a certain way. And I think we ought to keep it that way until the board decides to do it, as opposed to doing it under a whole kind of comprehensive set of changes. I do wonder how much of this an issue this is. I don't golf often, but I did golf twice in the last 2 weeks. And I got a reservation less than 7 days ahead and had absolutely no problem getting a tee time before 10 o'clock. And so I don't know how much of an issue this really is if we were just limit them to 7 days. So my subsidiary proposal is that we just modify section G9(1) to leave it as was voted upon by the last board at 14, 10, and 7. Is there
I can't speak for the golf professional, but I can tell you that the golf professional was part of this rules change, not this particular one, but the rules changes in the golf course. And there was no objection there that I can recall. I wish I would have talked to him today and clarified it, but I didn't. I didn't think this was going to be questioned. But I would hate to see this not pass when I think strongly that it's what's right for the community.
I appreciate that. And by the way, I did, when this happened last November, I did talk to Pat and he was in favor of the 14, 10, and 10 at the time. So I doubt he's probably changed his mind since then. So that said, Jeff, please, more comment.
I'd like to see if we could make a motion to table this, give Joe a chance to talk to our golf pro. Looking at this, listening to the conversation, is there a problem here that we're trying to fix, or are we creating a problem by making rules? I would much rather table this, do our homework, let Joe talk to the guy. We all know that Joe golfs 12 times a day. Let him get out and let's do our homework. Let's just put this off. Seems a lot more controversial than we thought it would be. I do think that, to Joe's point, annual non-resident members commit where a lot of people here don't. They're committing to over $3,000. Looking at the math and the percentage and stuff that we're paying with our dues, I think it comes out to what, $120 a year for a resident is what they're committing, something like that. So let's do our homework.
As a point of order, if we table it, we have to come back to a 28-day reading again, correct? Or not correct?
So we have a motion on the table to table. You don't have a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's that?
Asking the question.
Okay.
If we were to table the measure, when we reintroduce it, it has to come back to the 28-day reading again. Is that correct? Those are the wheels turning you're hearing. Just a minute. Bear with us. We're getting legal opinion here.
Sorry. So yes, because you're not making any changes and you would just be tabling it, you'd really just be delaying the approval and it would have its minimum of 28 days. So you could approve it if there are no changes next month.
If there were changes, we would have to come back with a 28-day.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. Given that,
I would like to make a motion to table it so we can do more homework.
Second.
all in favor of tabling this item, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Opposed.
4 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carried.
I do understand all sides. But thank you for all the feedback, everyone. We do appreciate the input. It allows us to make better decisions. And in this case, we need a little more time to make the best decision. Eric, how about giving us an update on life in the POA?
Here is a update on life at the POA. I hope everybody had a good holiday. It's nice to see this many people here, especially on January 2nd. We're all a little groggy and we can't believe we've been in meetings since 1 o'clock today, but we're powering through. So a couple updates. we put out our community patrol request for proposal for community patrol services last Friday, and bids are due on that RFP on January 24th. Our paving project, year 2 paving project started today. We actually started in December with concrete repairs on cross gutters and curb and gutter and that kind of thing. The major concrete repairs got done last month. We started with the asphalt reconstruction, street reconstruction today. Phase 1, which was Pyramid Point, Burning Tree, and Old Wrangler. And as luck would have it, on the first day of our project, we had a water main break on Burning Tree. And EVM, I got notified of that right as I came to the meeting. EVMWD and Premier Paving were on site. Not sure if it was vibration, if it was a physical strike, or even where it was, but there was a EVMWD water pipe break today on the first day of our street reconstruction. So Steve and I are looking at this as a positive, and let's get it out of the way on the first day, and then smooth sailing all the way till June. So we're going to go with that theory. Let's see, that project's going to be in 10 phases. Right now, the final phase 10 is scheduled to complete on May 17th. So depending on any kind of weather we have this year, project could go into June, early summer. Look to complete that. Our lodge project, a lot happened over the weekend. Crews worked most of the holiday weekend. And the lounge area, the floor got leveled and floated. The hardwood flooring got installed. Really, the lounge is 98% complete. A few finishing touches on floor transitions and some baseboard, and last few light fixtures in the lounge area. We're sending our final payment for the furniture tomorrow, and hoping to get our furniture delivered for the lounge later this week or early next week. In the restaurant, the upholstered booths were installed today. We're currently doing finishing touches in the restaurant as well. A little bit of finish woodwork and some trim, and then the private dining room, which is basically served as a cabinet maker's shop for the whole project. There's still tools and table saw and things set up in there, and that room is just starting its final finishing phases right now. And hoping to get the rest of our furniture in the next couple of weeks, and looking to wrap this project up in the next few weeks. I just want to say I'm grateful for our volunteer committee members, our volunteer board members, and especially all of our incredibly hardworking staff members, all 175 of them. And I'm grateful for them. Looking forward to a good 2024. And I want to wish everybody a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Encourage everyone to look at your board package. There's a lot of great material. Again, the staff does a good job keeping us informed with all kinds of good details, and in particular our communications team. And if any of you have not signed up for the POA newsletter to get delivered to your phone, it is just packed with a wealth of information. It goes right to your inbox on your phone every Friday. And if you ever want to know what's going on, that'll keep you right up to date. So I encourage everyone to do that if you haven't yet. With that, we're going to do some board comments at this point. And Alex, we're going to start with you.
Happy New Year, everybody. Like I think Eric said, it's amazing how many people are here on January 2nd. I think everybody's virtually hungover from the holidays. It was an amazing 10 days of Christmas, Hanukkah, and celebrating the new year. So thank you for everybody being here tonight. One of the things, I don't have a lot to say tonight, but one of the things I'd like to, maybe a warning, notice to intent to run for election, I think is February 22nd. I could be wrong on that date, but I think I saw that date somewhere. It's crazy to think an election's right around the corner again. So be prepared for that. If anybody wants to run, I welcome everybody to come up here and do this. Number three, again, I want to thank the committees for their hard work and recognize Commodore for all his work he's done for the community. If everybody knows, every time he sees me, he's trying to get me to sign up, and I haven't done it yet. And he is a good salesperson. So I really appreciate that. And I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody and hope to see you guys around the neighborhood.
Greg.
I would also like to say happy belated New Year to everybody and hope you have a great one. The five of us here got a sneak preview earlier today before this meeting of the lounge area, the restaurant area. And all I can tell you is you're going to love it. It's beautiful. It's all fresh and new. I encourage you to, when it's open, which will be very soon, you notice I'm not giving you a date. I'm just saying very soon. I'm sure you're going to love it. So please come out and check it out. We have, for those of you that play pickleball, we have a new pickleball camera at the courts, which is live streaming, much like you can go on, like to Caltrans and see how the camera there, see how the 15 is doing, for example. Well, we have one now at the pickleball courts, and it's really fantastic because you can sit there, like as my wife and I do in the morning over coffee, and say, well, I wonder how the courts are doing. And it's a very good camera, and it shows you exactly what's going on there. If it's crowded, you can go, well, maybe I'll go a little bit later. The pickleball people are really excited about it. And I'm hearing a rumor that we may use this tool at other facilities because it's very, very valuable to those that benefit from it. Ron Wilbur left the building, and maybe he's watching at home now. I hope so. I forgot to mention a little factoid about his accomplishment this past year in terms of numbers. He grew the yacht club from 62 members from a year ago today, roughly, to 400 just recently, a 645% growth number, which is unbelievable. So Ron, if you're watching, congratulations again. And I want to tell you a little story about Ron. He called me about last December, a year ago. And he said, this is Ron Wilbur. And I said, who? And he said, well, Greg, you filled out, I'm the Commodore. And he says, you filled out a survey that said you had finance background. And I said, well, sort of. I sold insurance. That's there's some finance in there. He goes, well, the position for purser is open and I'd like you to run. And I said, well, I'm not a CPA or anything like that. I could probably do the job, but are you sure I'm qualified? Oh yeah, absolutely. So he said, great. He says, great, you're on the ballot. And I said, oh, Ron, how many other people are running against me? None. Click. And of course I won. But that's Ron. And yes, so that's my Ron story. Again, Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe.
Well, I'd like to follow suit and wish everyone a very happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year. With the emphasis on healthy, I find the older I get, the more important that is. Want to remind everybody that Christmas season is closing down, and I just took my lights down this weekend, so I think they like to have them down this next coming weekend. Yeah, no, I've been there, done that. And again, I'd like to congratulate Ron Wilbur. I don't know him as well as some, but I can tell you that he is a very sincere and devoted guy to the community and his yacht club, and it couldn't have gone to a more deserving person. So I'd like to congratulate him. And with that, I'll thank you all and wish you all a good night.
Jeff.
Well, I hate to beat a dead horse, but regarding Ron Wilbur, talking about being a salesman, he pinned me down and my wife down and said, hey, you're going to sign up. So we signed up because you just don't have a choice when Ron's selling to you. It's he's good at what he does. And we're happy to be in the yacht club. And if you're not in it, then you should look into it. You don't even have to own a boat to get in there. There's people that will take you out on theirs if you're nice to them and buy them beer. So In addition to that, I want to thank Laura for the New Year's Eve party she threw in here the other night. She did an outstanding job. People were pretty well behaved, had a good time, and very well organized. The entertainment was great. April, who most of us know here in real estate, singing and everything else she does, put on a great show. It was just you know, I don't dance, but my wife drugged me up and I stood there while she danced, but it was fun. So it was great. So to add to that, you know, we all look at New Year's, we want to make New Year's resolutions. I'd like to throw it out there that don't wait for New Year's. Every day is the first day of a new year. Embrace life, move forward. Don't sit there and make a resolution now. Just decide to do something, move forward, embrace it. Love your family, hug your friends, treat people the way you want to be treated. And then in addition to that, now here's the bad stuff. E-bike ID stickers do not grant access. It's not an RFID. So just so you know, when we put the ID stickers on, it's so that when our security team is tracking them down, they don't have to get 2 feet away. They can spot the numbers just like a license plate on a car. So that is going to assist them in some areas. The other thing I would ask, well, I'm really talking a lot tonight. You guys should stop me. Ring cameras. Had some people on Facebook talking about some thefts. Art brought up tonight about the POA putting cameras on each corner. We could get y'all to sign up for the ring cameras. We won't have to raise dues to put cameras on every corner. But if that's what we need to do, and if that's what the members want, well, we'll look into that, but there will be a cost involved. But if we can get everybody signed up with the ring cameras, we can make this happen just by being good neighbors. So that's all I really have tonight.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, and so as 1 year closes and the next year starts, I look back on last year and there's a lot that was done. A lot of progress made on many, many fronts, but a lot more to come this year. And again, I want to emphasize the importance to all residents. Christmas time, a number of people got new e-bikes. And on January 6th, there's a big e-bike registration event at the POA. And I encourage everyone to bring take their test and come down and get your bike registered for that, as we discussed. Also, as Eric said, the community patrol RFP is out. It went out to I think 10 companies. We did a pre-qualification bid on 19 companies, and looking forward to that. Those coming in this month, so that'll be more to do this month. It's also budget time, so our finance committee is working hard. Is getting their budget books to go through that for next year. And so that will help us assess our overall costs and then what the dues will be next year. And there'll be a budget workshop in February, mid-February. So keep your eyes open for when that is. And I want to finish by just highlighting the probably least loved but hardest working committee we've got in the POA, and that is the Architectural Control Committee. And just to let you know some of the statistics, they had last year, they reviewed 2,884 requests to homes for change. That's over 55 per week. And they come in on full day on Tuesday. These are volunteers, come in and spend a full day on Tuesday and a full day on Thursday, and they go over all of that. It is amazing the amount of work they do. It's a thankless job, but at least from the board here, I want you to know we greatly appreciate all your hard work that you do. And with that, we're going to take a 10-minute recess, and then we'll do a couple of appeals.